everybody started screaming, and like I saw a lot of people running. So I tucked. I was in shock, so I tucked, and then I was like, I gotta get out. I gotta get out. So I ran. I just ran.
We begin with breaking news. Multiple people shot at a mall in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. That's according to the city's mayor. He says the injuries are non-life-threatening at this time, but dozens of officers remain on scene. At this hour, the suspect remains at large. We will continue to track the situation, bring you updates as they become available.
At the mall near the northwest entrance to Macy's. Wauwatosa police officers and Wauwatosa Fire Department personnel responded. When emergency personnel arrived, the shooter was no longer at the scene. 7 injured adults and 1 injured teenager were transported to the hospital by Wauwatosa Fire Department. The extent of their injuries is unknown at this time. Everybody was alive at that time, though, so there's not been any fatalities that I'm aware of. Numerous law enforcement agencies are assisting with clearing the Mayfair Mall property. Those who are seeking to reunify with anyone who is at Mayfair Mall should go to the reunification area located at the at-home store, 3201 North Mayfair Road. That's just north of Burleigh Street. Preliminary statements from witnesses indicate that the shooter is a white male in his 20s or 30s. Investigators are working on determining the identity of that suspect. Any information reporting the shooter's identity at this time is false. Mayfair Mall remains closed and will be closed until further notice.
General entrance, not quite Macy's itself, but the general entrance near the Potbelly store, was headed in the Eddie Bauer area, and again heard what sounded like fireworks. There's that moment where your brain tries to compute, is this really what I'm hearing? And she said an employee from Eddie Bauer was a key in rounding up the people who were inside that store and getting them out. She was actually able to leave the mall. The other person we spoke with was still confined to the other side of the mall and unable to get back to her vehicle because police are not letting them get in that area just yet, Patrick.
And Joyce, I'm just checking my inbox right now, and we do have a statement from the mayor of Wauwatosa, Mayor Dennis McBride. I'm going to read this statement. It says the Wauwatosa Police Department is currently involved in an active shooter incident at Mayfair Mall in Wauwatosa. Through the WPD's public information officer, more information will be released as it becomes available and is confirmed. Multiple injured victims have and are being transported from the north end of the Macy's department store. None of the victims' injuries appear to be life-threatening. The perpetrator is at large at this time. There are approximately 75 police officers on scene at this time. It will take time to provide additional and perhaps more accurate information, but information will be provided as it becomes available. That is a statement that we're getting through ABC News, a statement from the mayor of Wauwatosa, Dennis McBride. And we can see the law enforcement there on scene. And Joyce, you talked about it as well, the different agencies that have responded, and we have seen this before. This is something that law enforcement and emergency crews train for.
Officer vehicles are closest to those entrances, and then there are some cars that are farther back. It looks like Angelica Sanchez.
All right, we're going to take a moment right here and head off to a commercial break. You're watching news now from Fox. This is thanks to our sister station, Fox 6, out there in Milwaukee. We've been taking their coverage. Definitely appreciate them during this situation with reports of multiple people shot inside Mayfair Mall out there in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. So again, we're going to send you off to a 2-minute commercial break. But when you come back, more news now from Fox, where we're bringing you all of the live, raw, unfiltered, nonstop news throughout the day. For those of you who are sticking around right now, let's listen into this interview. It looks like maybe some bystanders by that shooting.
I saw a few people come out. They brought the people that were in critical condition, obviously, first out. I saw a lady come out on a stretcher with her baby. My uncle, yeah, he did come out. He got shot twice in the leg. Thankful it wasn't worse than that, but still, it's pretty bad, you know.
Is family with him at the hospital now, or do you know what's the situation?
Yep, my dad is headed to the hospital with him right now.
What is going through your mind right now, seeing a scene like this at a place that I'm sure you frequented many times?
I actually work here all the time, and it's just crazy to me. It pisses me off a lot. I'm really mad about it. it's just all just a lot to take in.
Can you tell us a little bit about your uncle, the kind of person that he is?
My uncle, he just moved here a few years ago from Pakistan. He's always been a kind, caring person. Like every customer he's had, everyone loves, respects him. That's why when I heard that he got shot, I was like not expecting for it to be him at all. So I'm really close to my uncle as well. So.
What do you have to say to the person or persons responsible for this?
I hope you go to hell, straight up. You have no heart whatsoever. Like, I swear to God, I hope you go to hell. You do not deserve anything. That's as simple as that.
Do you have something else to say, sir?
No, I speak a little bit English, not very well.
That's okay. Yeah. Very sorry for what your family is going through. So again, as you heard, they had their uncle who was shot twice in the leg, and of course this is coming as such a shock. And as the young man described, they saw multiple people wheeled out of here. So we're going to stick with them, talk to them a little bit more. We're going to send it back to you in studio.
Angie, quickly, can you ask if they were able to learn any information about how this shooting unfolded, or any information about who the shooter may have been?
No, as you heard, Ben, they rushed right to the mall, and at this time they're just like us, trying to wait around to figure out more information on what could have caused something like this.
Immigrant from Pakistan, shot twice. Hopefully he does well. We'll keep up to date on this, Angie. We'll let you talk to them off camera a little bit so we can learn some more information.
All right, right now we're going to go to our Hannah Jewell, who is on kind of a different side of Mayfair Mall, though. There, Hannah, what are you hearing at this point? Any new information on your end?
Well, we've still been in touch with some of the people who are hunkering down and sheltering inside some of the stores inside the mall. They tell us that they've locked the doors. They're still sheltering in place at this time, but not a lot of word yet to them about what exactly is going on. We still see a lot of law enforcement over here. Several
different agencies come in, they respond to these situations. As far as ambulance crews, we've seen Brookfield, Wauwatosa, Milwaukee there. We've also seen several law enforcement agencies there on the scene. As we zoom in, we can see some of them. And Matt, I do want to bring you back in. Is that another person being loaded in, or are they, okay, it looks like they're taking that stretcher out, or are they loading that back in?
Yeah, Patrick, that's one thing I just noticed. One of the crews that brought a stretcher in, the West Dallas unit that came in, they brought their back out with just their gear on top of the stretcher, no person. Now this Wauwatosa ambulance is going back in, or taking their stretcher in at this point. We'll see if they come out with another person. I was going over the count in my head again of how many people I've seen come out on stretchers, and the first two looked like they were almost identical, teenage men. The third one came out, had their head down like they might be sedated or in pain. The fourth one that came out, a woman came up and kind of tried to give him a hug, and the cops...
Active crime scene, we're gathering information, we put out what we know. So thank you for your time. Thank you.
A Wauwatosa, a pair of Wauwatosa ambulances, as well as a Brookfield ambulance. So that also adds up to 6 ambulances that have left at this point. And now the West Dallas ambulance just pulled away, but again, they did not put anybody on board. So I believe we've seen 6 injured parties pull out and be taken by ambulance. All but one of them appeared to be conscious and talking with the paramedics as they were loaded onto their different ambulances. And one more stretcher was just wheeled in. Now, we've also, as you've been talking, seen a couple of different tactical units. There was a group of 8 and a group of 6. They all tried to go in this same entrance, and then they were re-guided, and they went in the entrance here that goes directly into Macy's. We also see another group that is in the process of gearing up at this point by the armored vehicle. Looks like they may have already moved. This unit had a canine with them, so it looks like they're going to be bringing a dog into the building as well to continue this search.
And Matt, for people who are familiar with Mayfair Mall, give us an idea of where you are, what side of the mall you're on, what we're looking at there.
All right, so this is the northwest corner of Macy's, so Highway 100 side, and it's close to what would be Center Street, but it's actually the the street that goes around the parking lot becomes Center Street. And it looks like they blocked off the exits here on this end, and we've seen people that are able to get to their vehicle exit here at the center exit, but nobody is being allowed to pull into the mall at this time. We did an orbit around the entire building. We saw 2 Wauwatosa officers here by the corporate headquarters entrance. and then there was a group of about 4 or 5 SUVs with their lights on that went in underneath the AMC theater, so they are underneath that theater portion at this point. That was the only other activity that we saw at this point outside of what we've seen here at the Macy's end, right by Macy's and the Potbelly, that side entrance on the northwest corner of the mall.
Matt, when we talked with Caroline Reinwald a short time ago, she was interviewing someone who said that her friend, this person's friend, works in Macy's, and they were hiding in the store there. I asked her if she was able to see, Caroline was able to see from where she is on the ground, anyone other than law enforcement or emergency personnel coming and going. As you fly around the mall, are you able to see anyone else coming out, anyone, customers or employees from inside the mall exiting the mall, or are you only seeing law enforcement and emergency vehicles coming in and out?
Yeah. At this point, again, I just showed you the side exit. Looks like people are leaving. There's a group of 3 or 4 every time I look here. Now there's 2 leaving, including...
الخميس الموافق 4/4. لا إله إلا الله. عز الله أن البلدية بيرتاحون من حصد الحدائق. شيء هائل يا جماعة. لا إله إلا الله. بشر لا يحصيه إلا الله. شيء لا يحصيه إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. نازل على الحدائق. شيء هائل. الله أكبر. حصد بهالثيم.
الجراد يغزو الأحياء الشمالية والرأس. صح إنه شيء مخيف. لا حول ما شاء الله. يوم الخميس 4/4/1442.
vaccine if it weren't for me for another 4 years, because FDA would have never been able to do what they did, what I forced them to do. And Pfizer and others even decided to not assess the results of their vaccine. In other words, not come out with a vaccine until just after the election. That's because of what I did with favored nations and these other elements. Big Pharma ran millions of dollars of negative advertisements against me during the campaign, which I won, by the way, but, you know, we'll find that out. Almost 74 million votes. We had Big Pharma against us. We had the media against us. We had big tech against us. We had a lot of dishonesty against us. These corrupt games will not deter us from doing what is right for the American people, and I will always put American patients first. And I think it can never be shown better than what I'm doing today. Already we successfully lowered drug prices for the first time in 51 years.
What an extremely exciting day for American healthcare. On top of the news that you just made, today, Pfizer will be filing an application for an emergency use authorization with the FDA for their COVID-19 vaccine that appears to be 95% effective. Within weeks, we could have a decision from FDA, and within 24 hours of that, we will have started distributing millions of doses of safe and effective vaccine.
Bars will pay the state $1,000 each over complaints that they violated the governor's coronavirus regulations. The Alcoholic Beverages Division filed the complaints against Beer Can Alley and the Exchange in Des Moines and Shotgun Betty's in West Des Moines for failing to ensure 6 feet of distance between customers. Both bars agreed to settle and pay
COVID cases in Alabama public schools have been rising sharply, but Superintendent Dr. Eric Mackey doesn't foresee asking Governor Ivey to make schools fully remote.
My intention and my hope and recommendation that we would not, in any case, shut down our schools again.
Mackey says there have been sporadic problems when too many adult teachers or staff members get sick.
If we have, even 1 or 2 positive cases in the cafeteria, then that may mean that other members of the cafeteria staff have to go on quarantine, and then you have to close the cafeteria. If you close the cafeteria, you have to close the schools.
But Mackey says students and teachers have been following protocols in this time of struggle.
I think that we would continue to try to manage through the rest of this school year, and certainly I'll hope for a vaccine.
Mackey says outdoor dining and learning have reduced the spread of COVID, but colder weather will make things more difficult. Other challenges include knowing when a child is ready to advance to the next grade, more complex with older students in particular. However, new computers continue to arrive and Wi-Fi problems are easing.
Also getting much better both in rural areas and also in our more urban areas as far as connecting people, getting them on internet, helping them pay for their bill, those kind of things.
But federal funding for these things runs out next month. Still,
I do see a lot of smiling teachers. I see a lot of smiling children. And I think that's what tells us what the future holds.
Optimism in the face of ever greater COVID challenges. Jeff Eliasoff, WVTM 13.
Hoover City Schools plans to return with a staggered schedule after the Thanksgiving holiday. It says it's due to the rise in cases and number of people impacted due to close contacts. In-person learning days are based on last name. All students will learn from home on Wednesdays. The staggered schedule will continue through January 18th.
The Coronavirus Task Force updated America on the state of the pandemic, plus a scathing statement from President-elect Joe Biden about President Trump. Our Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief Ross Palermo has it all from the White House. Ross.
Well, Nicole, we haven't seen the president now in 6 days. He's been hunkered down here at the White House trying to overturn our fair and free election. But tonight, for the first time in months, the president sending out his coronavirus task force to do some of the talking for him. 121 critical days since Donald Trump's task force last came to this podium, and with 110,000 more Americans now dead, 7 million more Americans now infected.
Dr. Fauci.
For the first time in months, Dr. Anthony Fauci was allowed to speak here, now urging Americans to trust the coming vaccines.
So we need to put to rest any concept that this was rushed in an inappropriate way. This is really solid.
But in the middle of this deadly surge, Trump himself still missing, still without any comment, still without answering a single question.
Thank you all.
Only the campaign's legal team speaking, 90 bizarre minutes filled with baseless claims.
Mass cheating that went on in this election.
Not only with zero evidence, but with a new bold assertion that they shouldn't even be asked for any.
Your question is fundamentally flawed when you're asking where is the evidence.
And all of this delaying where the transition is.
My transition team hasn't been able to get access to information we need.
President-elect Joe Biden meeting with both Democrat and Republican governors, again saying this delay may cost more American lives.
And there is no excuse not to share the data and let us begin to plan. And that's lives. How many would be lost as a consequence of that? I can't tell you.
And the consequences not only hitting sick Americans, Biden says, but wounding our democracy.
I think they're witnessing incredible irresponsibility, incredibly damaging messages being sent to the rest of the world about how democracy functions. He will go down in history as being one of the most irresponsible presidents in American history.
Well, irresponsible, the Biden campaign says, because Joe Biden clearly won the election by more than, or nearly that is, 6 million votes. And tonight, also, Georgia has completed its recount, and Calvin and Nicole, Biden once again won.
1 hour to go until level red takes effect. That means increased restrictions for more than a dozen counties across Colorado, including Denver. And while this is not a stay-at-home order, it's about as close as you can get without shutting down completely. Governor Jared Polis announced earlier this week that this was coming. At the same time, he announced the new purple, most restrictive phase on the state's COVID-19 dial.
He emphasized the new restrictions today and is asking Coloradans to do their part to help prevent further overwhelming our hospitals and medical workers. Here's Sonia Gutierrez.
We hope that this changes the trajectory, but it's also important that Coloradans are realistic. It takes 2 weeks for that to change the trajectory, a week or two before really that starts showing up.
At this point, Governor Polis says it's highly likely that every Coloradan knows somebody who has contracted COVID and recovered or died from the illness.
You know what you need to do. We simply need to do it better.
Cases and hospitalizations continue to climb in Colorado and across the nation.
In many red level counties in our state, ICU capacity is close to 90%.
In Weld County, for example, Governor Polis says they only have 3 ICU beds and no more regular hospital beds.
Yeah, this is a national outbreak, the biggest national outbreak of coronavirus since the beginning of the epidemics.
That's why more than a dozen Colorado counties moved to the more restrictive red phase on Friday, imposing stricter regulations, an effort to help reduce the numbers and ease the workload on medical workers.
Because we talk a lot about beds, appropriately so, but you also need staff.
Dr. Vargas agrees. As a medical worker, he's trying to take care of himself and his staff.
Right now, we have many Coloradans depending on us, and I can't do my job alone without my nursing staff, my MAs, and all the staff that we need alone to get things going.
Both agree the next few weeks will be critical in flattening the curve. The capacity of our hospitals counts on it.
We are losing Coloradans every day to this horrible virus. And it is in our power. It is in our power to stop that.
For 9 News, I'm Sonia Gutierrez.
Governor Polis is calling for a special legislative session beginning on November 30th. The governor is asking lawmakers to address many areas of financial support for Coloradans, including small business relief, child care, housing, and direct rental assistance, as well as increasing broadband access.
It is still a struggle for many storm victims in Baldwin County.
NBC 15's Corey Pippin spoke to one Robertsdale man who, like many, is experiencing hit after hit with the pandemic and storm damage.
One man tells me mold is still growing inside his Robertsdale apartment, and he's getting little to no help from his landlord to fix the damage caused by Hurricane Sally.
To lose most of my clothes, my furniture, and even reach out for help, it hasn't been easy.
Tonight, Aaron Grant says he's dealing with costly,
that's mold,
and dangerous storm damage to his Robertsdale apartment on St. Paul Street. This comes on the heels of being laid off as a storm restoration technician due to coronavirus.
My bosses won't put me on any jobs because they know I'm high risk. I'm used to going out in the neighborhoods, and I'll tell people, you know, I know what you're going through. I've been doing this a long time. I didn't know what they were going through.
Grant says he's relied on unemployment and selling woodwork like these for income. But it's not enough to pay the rent of his mold-infested home, which was hit hard by Hurricane Sally.
It tore out the back windows, a small tree between the house, probably 100 gallons of water pushed through the back door, mostly wind-driven. No power for 9 or 10 days.
Adding insult to injury, Grant says his landlord hasn't provided much help, taking weeks to remove moldy carpet and leaving him and his fiancée with unsafe living conditions.
For 3 weeks, we slept in the backyard in a tent. She was in the emergency room this week. I've been in the hospital 2 different times for unexplained allergic reactions.
Grant says he's trying to stay positive, but he's also facing eviction by the landlord in January.
It's scary at best. There's a lot of great church groups, where there's food, but it's more than what we can handle right now.
I reached out to Grant's landlord about his concerns, but have not heard back. If you're in a similar situation, the county program Baldwin Together is designed to help residents out of work because of COVID-19. We've included their information and their number on our website, mynbc15.com. In Baldwin County tonight, I'm Corey Pippin.
In a bombshell development, South Australia's coronavirus lockdown will end early. From midnight tomorrow, businesses can reopen and we can leave our homes for any reason. Kids will be back at school on Monday. Tonight, permitted exercise is available, with thousands taking the opportunity to get some sun on a perfect spring day. There's a lot of ground to cover tonight. Our reporters are standing by to bring you the latest. First, though, to the extraordinary reason the rules are being relaxed. It all comes down to one young man. It's been revealed the COVID patient at the centre of the cluster lied to authorities, sending health officials scrambling in the wrong direction and a state into lockdown.
Carrying the fury of a state on his shoulders, the Premier unleashes.
To say that I am fuming about the actions of this individual is an absolute understatement.
A lie that brought South Australia to a standstill.
His actions have affected businesses, individuals, family groups, and is completely and utterly unacceptable.
The target of his ire, the Stamford Plaza Medi Hotel worker who had authorities fearing he'd caught the virus from a pizza box. He told contact tracers he'd bought takeaway from the Woodville South Pizza Bar where 2 workers had tested positive. Today, though, a bombshell.
The person claimed that they'd purchased a pizza from the pizza shop, where in fact they were working there and had been working there for several shifts.
A deliberate deception which had authorities wrongly investigating a rare case of surface transmission and a different strain of the virus. They started tracking down delivery drivers and hundreds of customers.
Had this person been truthful to the contact tracing teams, we would not have gone into a 6-day lockdown.
The kicker? He can't be punished.
The Emergency Management Act requires people to provide information on request. There is no penalty for failing to truthfully answer those questions.
A legal loophole that's sure to change. For now, contact tracers are scrambling.
We are now dealing with a potential outbreak that we need to lock down as quickly as possible.
The business community seeing red.
This individual has held the state to ransom through telling a lie. And there's an economic and there's a social impact on that.
The hardship is not lost on us, and it's devastating that we've had to take this action on the basis of a false premise.
The silver lining is big.
Effective as of midnight on Saturday, the stay-at-home order will be repealed.
But we're not out of the woods yet. 3 new cases today, all in quarantine, and there are more to come.
I just want to give people a little warning that we are expecting to see the number of cases here in South Australia rising over the next couple of days.
An expected development, she says, cause for concern, but not alarm.
Restrictions, not another shutdown. The governor, though, doing this for a good reason. She says community spread is just out of control. After seeing another day with a high number of new COVID cases, the governor is shutting things down again.
All non-essential businesses and nonprofits must, starting Monday, cease in-person activities.
This includes all indoor malls like the Coronado Center in Albuquerque, which saw a large number of shoppers Friday. Some agreed temporarily closing it down is the right thing to do.
It's necessary. It kind of sucks that it has to happen this way, but if it's necessary to slow down the virus, then it has to be done.
Leona decided to do some last-minute shopping with her family after she heard the news, but she believes the timing will be tough for the businesses who rely on holiday shoppers to survive. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham is also calling on outdoor recreational facilities like ski resorts, golf courses, and state parks to close too.
And I know many of you will say, but we're outside. But in going outside and checking in to the place of business or the park and getting the golf cart and meeting our friends, all of that is exacerbating community spread of COVID-19, and it's out of control.
State museums will also remain closed. These non-essential businesses must all reduce their in-person workforce and activities by 100%. Though many understand the reason for the closures, they say it's going to hurt.
I think it's going to hurt a lot of businesses. It's going to hurt a lot of families that do their shopping during this time, because I know the mall is the biggest place for people to go and do their shopping. So, I mean, it's gonna suck for some families and some businesses.
Oh, as for this mall, which just shut down at around 8 o'clock, and all other non-essential businesses, well, they have just 2 more days before the shutdown begins. Reporting live in Albuquerque, Kayla Norwood, KOAT Action 7 News.
Kaylin, thank you. And for indoor malls, the only exception is if there's an essential business there and it has its own separate outdoor entrance, then that individual business can stay open.
The surge sickening more by the minute, and tonight it's potentially threatening public safety in the process. I'm Corey Stark.
I'm Samantha Jones. New reports say there's a significant outbreak within the St. Louis City Police Department. There are at least 10 officers positive with the virus and almost 24 others quarantined. All of these officers, according to the Post-Dispatch, are based at the city's Central Patrol District. Right now, City PD is not responding to News 4's requests for more information.
Another new startling number tonight in the outbreak. In the last hour, new data shows today's caseload exceeding 194,000. That is the most ever for just one day.
The booming case growth leads us to News 4's Ashley Lincoln. Ashley, you're learning Barnes-Jewish is having issues now, and they have to use the Children's Hospital to handle coronavirus patients.
That's right, Samantha. We found out that majority of our ICUs here in the St. Louis metro area are operating at 90% capacity. Like you mentioned, leaders here at Barnes-Jewish are now having to send some COVID patients here to the Children's Hospital to accommodate the sick.
It's stressful for everyone and scary.
Coronavirus hospitalizations are pushing the brim.
It's getting worse instead of better.
Patients admitted into St. Louis area hospitals jumping higher each day, now up to 881 Friday.
While the hospitals are already almost full, the virus continues to spread like a wildfire.
One of the Metro's largest medical providers, BJC, telling News 4 that because of the influx, they started transferring adult patients from Barnes to their children's hospital. BJC says in a statement that some of the short-stay adult patients may be cared for at St. Louis Children's Hospital. The statement goes on to say, this is a temporary measure meant to provide quality care.
We need to wear our masks.
St. Louis resident Bill Haas says he wishes Missouri state leaders would issue a mask mandate to provide relief for local hospitals.
We need to social distance. This isn't going to get better on its own.
I'm trying to save lives.
The St. Louis Pandemic Task Force continues to call on Governor Mike Parson to enforce the mask mandate. The request keeps getting knocked down by the governor. Dr. Alex Garza says IC units in majority of St. Louis metro hospitals are around 90% capacity. He says the governor can't keep pushing this off.
We have to make choices about who can be helped with the limited resources available, and we have to make choices of who can't be helped. And that is a dilemma no healthcare worker ever wants to face.
And we also checked with SSM Cardinal Glennon's Children's Hospital. Right now, they are telling us that they are not sending any adult patients to their hospital as of yet. However, they did tell us that they've had to take employees from the Children's Hospital to help with the demand at other
ruling Tennessee can begin outlawing abortions because of a prenatal diagnosis of Down syndrome. The ruling also allows our state to ban an abortion if it's based on the race or gender of the fetus. Governor Bill Lee enacted the so-called reason bans earlier this year as part of a sweeping anti-abortion measure. The law was blocked just hours after Lee signed it into law. Now the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals decision will allow the state to enforce the reason bans while abortion rights groups continue their battle in court. Governor Lee saying, quote, "Every life is precious and every child has inherent human dignity." Going on to say, protecting our most vulnerable Tennesseans is worth the fight, end quote.
To her right, the Department of Health's Communicable Disease Service Director, Dr. Ed Lifshitz, another familiar face. Great to have you back. Ed, to my left, the Superintendent of the State Police, a guy who needs no introduction, Colonel Pat Callahan, the Director of the Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness, Jared Maples, Chief Counsel Parimal Garg, and Councilman-elect from Greenbrook, Matt Stanishi, is in the House. If that weren't enough, the First Lady of the great state of New Jersey, Tammy Murphy. Remember, the New Jersey Pandemic Relief Fund is still doing extraordinary work, njprf.org. Your money will go right to the point of attack to the people who need it the most in this state. I want to spend a few minutes giving an update on our testing program, so I think the first thing to do will be to give the results of those tests of the day. Today we're reporting 3,635 positive cases, which gives us a cumulative total since March 4th of 297,370. The positivity for all PCR tests recorded this past Monday was 7.98%. That's a little bit better than the past couple of days. Statewide rate of transmission today is 1.40. So we run through these numbers every day, and they are the resulting data from the tens of thousands of PCR tests we record on a daily basis. You could see here how our testing has increased exponentially throughout this pandemic. We recently hit a high of roughly 70,000 tests in one day, and for the month of November, we're averaging approximately, Judy, 45,000 tests per day. And remember, these are just the PCR tests. This data does not include antigen rapid test results. On this chart, you can also see some days where the numbers of, I guess it's this chart, pardon me, the number of tests generally drops off. These are usually on the weekends. Big flashing sign here. So, where you can be tested on a weekend, we would encourage you to do so, as you may encounter shorter lines and shorter waits at our testing facilities. And to that, there are more than 400 active testing sites located throughout our state. The dots on that map, a little bit of an eye chart, Judy, forgive me, represent all but our mobile pop-up testing sites. You can locate a testing site near you, including participating pharmacies, healthcare and urgent care facilities, and state and local government-sponsored sites by visiting covid19.nj.gov/test and trace. Again, covid19.nj.gov/test and trace. And for pop-up testing, we are collaborating at the state level with local leaders to stand up multiple sites in several hotspot areas, and these have opened over the past several days, and I'm told by the time we're gathering, these sites will also be on that page, test and trace. So, first up, test.
Deputy Secretary, thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
So the governor declared another emergency order this week and extended the mask mandate, which has been in effect since summer. Why hasn't the mandate worked effectively to slow the spread?
Well, to clarify, face masks and facial coverings can certainly work very well, but what it requires us is to have a very high uptake and compliance with that. Estimated, probably we need to have 80 to 90% of the population regularly wearing a mask in order for us to see the desired effects. I think I think there's opportunity for us to improve in that regard across the state. The other thing is, last week we received some really good news from CDC. We've been saying all along that facial coverings protect you from me, but emerging evidence also says that facial coverings like the one I'm wearing now protect me from you. And so it's really a win-win for people to wear facial coverings. And it also has to be, this isn't a panacea. Has to be combined with the other important preventive mechanisms we talk about: staying 6 feet apart from each other, staying home if you're sick, washing your hands. Don't touch your face, don't touch your mask. And one of the things that annoys me the most is watching people on TV adjusting their mask all the time. So those are the things we need to do in order to improve the effectiveness of wearing masks.
Describe the situation now in Wisconsin as it weathers this surge in COVID cases.
Yeah, we're in a really tough place right now. We have a still very rapid increase in cases. We're running second behind Texas in total number of cases, third behind the Dakotas in the rate of cases. And as a result, we're also starting to see what we knew would happen if we continued this rapid increase. Hospitals filling up, and unfortunately our rates of death increasing. You know, this week alone we've had several days with 70, 80, 90 people dying each day from this disease. So we're also rivaling New York City. Right now we have about 6,400 cases per day, and at the peak in New York City in the spring, they were at 5,200 cases. So we're over 1,000 cases more a day than New York City at the peak. And that's why these preventive measures are so important now.
Cases are on the rise on Long Island, where the state is closely watching the uptick.
School districts are warning residents to be ready for a possible shutdown. CBS 2's Jennifer McLogan reports from Suffolk County.
A war on COVID-19 on the East End, where Riverhead and Hampton Bays are near microcluster designation.
We've been talking about the second wave for a long time, and certainly this is exactly what we feared.
County Executive Steve Bellone sharing the statistics. While Long Island hovers in the mid 3%, Riverhead has surged to 5.6 and Hampton Bays to 6.5. Outreach is underway across communities where PPE handouts come with crucial reminders, say those on the front line.
It's education. So we're constantly talking about it and setting the example.
Local police officers have joined in the campaign to spread the word.
Now more than ever, we need testing. The cluster identification is a very important component, tracing COVID and surveilling COVID.
A pilot program now underway at Riverhead High and Hampton Bays Middle School. Testing for staff and students results in 15 minutes.
All hands on deck effort to test as many people in the community to bring the rate low.
Both Riverhead and Hampton Bays are on the threshold of the yellow zone. School districts can remain open here if in-school testing over a 2-week period is lower than the community rate. Suffolk's health department believes this testing will pinpoint trouble zones that can be targeted and brought under control. On the East End, Jennifer McLogan, CBS 2 News.
Increased testing and ramped up enforcement will continue.
The mask mandate applies to all public spaces, especially when other social distancing is difficult to maintain. Exceptions include kids under 12 and when people are eating or drinking, among other things. Now, Mayor Joe Brooks addressing Claiborne County's 33,000 residents saying, quote, "You are all ultimately my responsibility, and being the leader of Claiborne County is not something anyone should take for granted when looking at the health and well-being of each of our citizens. To that end, difficult and unpopular decisions have to be made to ensure the safety of every Claiborne Countian is paramount to the success of our county."
I told him I was very disappointed and ashamed that they're coming in my home, and now refusing to wear a mask.
Some police officers are not wearing masks on the job, and concerned citizens say it's putting people at risk. Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Powers.
And I'm Courtney Gooseman. We've gotten several calls and emails asking why safety personnel are not required to wear face coverings.
So tonight, 5 on Your Side investigator Joe Paganakis goes in depth to get answers.
Courtney, Rob, residents who called and emailed want the state mask mandate to no longer exempt safety workers like police, fire, and EMS from wearing a mask unless they're involved in an urgent, dangerous, or life-threatening call for service.
It was a non-emergency.
Deborah Kendera called Eastlake Police to her home to give her daughter some advice on Thursday. Officers walked into her living room.
And I immediately said, "Officers, I'm sorry." I said, you don't have a mask. And they said that they left it in the car.
Deborah is a healthcare worker and offered the officers brand new masks, but she says they refused to put them on.
I have a family member that has stage 4 cancer that I'm caring for. And every mask matters.
She says officers told her the governor's mask mandate doesn't require them to wear masks.
And I says, if you refuse to wear a mask while you're in my home, I'm sorry, you're going to have to leave.
It was a similar experience for Valerie Ramsire, a critical care nurse pulled over by North Ridgeville police for speeding earlier this week.
The fact that I had put my mask on, I feel like he should have that same respect to do that for me.
Ramsire says the officer refused to put on a mask during the traffic stop, and when she called police headquarters to ask why,
they told me that they're not required to wear masks because it impairs their vision. So then I asked him how that was possible, because I work in healthcare and I have to wear one 12 hours a day.
Both North Ridgeville and Eastlake Police referred News 5 to the written exemptions in Ohio's current mask mandate that doesn't require public safety personnel to wear masks.
They have the opportunity to wear a mask. They should. If they want to wear a mask, they can.
Eastlake Police Chief Larry Reich says all officers are issued a mask, but it's up to each officer to use their own discretion based on the state mandate. Reich says if Deborah or any other citizen would have specifically asked officers to wear a mask when they were initially called, the officers would have complied.
I totally understand where she's coming from, and if she would have made some other stipulations and the officers would have barged in with a non-emergent situation, I think we would have had a different conversation.
Now, we contacted other police departments. Many of them, like Akron and Elyria, say they are now enforcing a voluntary mask policy for all personnel. Chief Reich says he's in daily talks with the Eastlake mayor and says he'll speak to him about a voluntary policy.
A Sunday hike takes a disturbing turn. Two women sitting on a bench on Midstate Trail in Ashburnham, then someone yells at them for not wearing masks.
I'm not going to wear a mask when I'm outside.
It's not the law. It's not the law.
Good for you. You call whoever you need to call and do whatever you need to do.
Selfish is what it is. Completely irresponsible.
Okay, thank you so much for your input.
Police say what was really irresponsible is what happens next. The man walks away, but then turns around, pulls down his own mask. The woman he's with tries holding him back, and then this.
Okay, I have COVID.
Help!
I have COVID. I've been tested positive.
Help! Get back here. Help! You okay?
No, you won't be soon.
Alarmed, shocked, I think disgusted.
The woman reported it to police. They say the man was out of line and made the situation worse.
It was hostile, it was inappropriate, it was threatening, and it could even be assaultive.
That's arrogant. You're completely arrogant.
Now police asking your help in identifying this man and hoping nobody follows in his footsteps.
Everybody's frustrated. There's a lot of frustrations. We're all in this together, and people just have to try to keep that frustration, to themselves.
Police want to get that suspect side of the story, though they say he could face assault charges as a result of this. We're in Ashburnham tonight. I'm Peter Iliopoulos, WCVB News Center 5.
Everyone caught up on the numbers now. Looking at Illinois, it reported over 14,600 cases on Thursday. In the Metro East, Madison County accounted for over 200 of those cases, but that was actually down from 326 the previous day. St. Clair County had its lowest day of cases in 2 weeks at just 140. There are new coronavirus restrictions starting today for the entire state of Illinois. Retail businesses, stores like Walmart and Target, they must operate at 25% capacity. Same goes for gyms, barbershops, and salons. Grocery stores and pharmacies, they will remain at 50%, and there will be no indoor dining at restaurants, while theaters and art centers must close.
I think they're necessary for us to survive. I'm really looking at my life. I'd rather for somebody be concerned about me, because without my life, I will not have a business.
Governor J.B. Pritzker says hospitals are seeing a real strain and will soon be overwhelmed if the current rate of infections continues. These restrictions will be reevaluated.
Greater Lynchburg is shutting down its shelter out of an abundance of caution after an individual tested positive for COVID-19. The organization announced today their Center of Hope facility is on lockdown until December the 4th for deep cleaning and sanitizing. Officials say 14 residents are in quarantine out of an abundance of caution, while 6 staff members are working remotely. The community feeding program has been put on hold, and the lockdown also affects their Thanksgiving event.
So sadly, we will have to cancel our Thanksgiving feeding, but we're hoping to postpone that to December because we still want to serve the community. There is still a need. We just want to make sure that we can serve safely.
The Salvation Army's adjacent community center, as well as their Red Kettle and Angel Tree
Back to the
programs,
unemployment
have
line.
not been impacted.
Tonight, we're talking to those who are once again without a paycheck.
It comes as a result of the latest COVID-19 restrictions, shutting down bars and restaurant dining rooms across the state. News 8's Jacqueline Francis caught up with those affected as they face unemployment for the second time this year.
We were last year in March. It was the last day the unemployment office was open and one of the first days since the shutdown had taken effect. Among those in line that day were hardworking bartenders and servers, many of whom have once again found themselves out of work.
I wanted to cry. I did. We didn't ask for this to happen, and due to that, now we're all unemployed.
It's been 8 months since we first met Kiara Anderson. She was waiting in line outside the unemployment office on Plainfield Avenue. The longtime Chili's server had found herself without a job for the first time in her adult life, a direct consequence of the coronavirus shutdown.
It really turned out to be a lot worse than I thought it was going to be.
Tonight, we caught up with Kiara about how things have been as she once again files for unemployment due to the latest COVID order that's closed dining rooms across the state.
I almost feel like, damn, am I going to wake up? Is this a dream? And it's like, nope, it's still reality. I don't really know how to take it. I think I'm traumatized, honestly.
It's a nightmare shared by many in the industry. I'm just still dumbfounded that it happened again. Yep. Michelle Armour, a bartender of 30 years, was also at the unemployment office that day back in March. Stressful, because everybody wants the same thing, money. She eventually got the unemployment benefits she filed for that day, but it wasn't close to what she was making bartending 50 to 60 hours a week. I think it's going to be worse off this time, especially if it goes longer than 3 weeks. You don't know what to expect. You don't know when that money's going to come in. And then there's Angela Holton. The mom of two took a serving job back in September after her husband was laid off amid the pandemic. Now, with no tables to wait on or tips to be earned, she can only hope the unemployment money will be enough to get her family through.
You have to decide on whether to buy diapers and food or pay your rent and your light bill. It's hard because you don't know what's coming next. You don't know if this is just going to last 3 weeks. You don't know if this is going to last another 4, 5, 6 months.
Earlier this week, we spoke with one of the top officials at the state's unemployment insurance agency who told us they've made many changes since the last shutdown, all in an effort to improve the online claim process after hitting many speed bumps the first time around. You can find that report right now on our website, woodtv.com.
Let's recap both breaking stories we're following tonight. First, police in New Berlin issuing an emergency alert warning, telling people to shelter in place. Officers are looking for possibly armed subjects from a pursuit that started in Milwaukee County. The Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, as you can see in this live picture right here, has shut down I-94 starting at Oklahoma Avenue. Again, a live picture as deputies walk that highway looking for evidence. Law enforcement connected with this, we believe, also swarming the area near Beloit and Moreland in New Berlin. That's right near the Freighter Moreland Reserve.
The pandemic will not stop Operation Family Feast from putting Thanksgiving dinner on the table of local families in need. Our Emily Rittman joins us live outside Shelter KC, where volunteers will meet tomorrow, Emily, to make deliveries.
Ellen, normally on Thanksgiving, when a family needs a little extra help around the holiday, they would come here to pick up a food basket. But this year, instead, volunteers will use contactless delivery to bring the food to them.
All right, you guys are gonna go sign in.
Shelter KC
Semicircle
and volunteers from Community Praise Worship and World Outreach Center.
There needs to be stuffing.
Along with volunteers from Westside Family Church, packed about 300 food baskets with the ingredients needed to cook a Thanksgiving feast.
Well, you got to start out with the turkey, of course, and you got to end with the pumpkin pie.
I'm the pie lady.
For years, Kim Drew has joined this Thanksgiving food basket assembly line.
Giving back just makes you feel good.
It's very important to do God's work of serving people so they can celebrate this loving season together.
This year, volunteers will also deliver about 600 cooked meals to people who might otherwise go without on Thanksgiving.
I think every church is noticing this need of 2020 with people being food insecure, people, losing jobs.
During this difficult year, volunteers are thankful for an opportunity to help someone else make memories with their family.
And remember who we love and why we're so thankful. And even though it's a struggle time, God has still blessed us in so many ways.
It may be just a meal, but I think it translates to something bigger than a meal for them.
This is an important
Emily Rittman,
contribution.
As more patients end up in the hospital, healthcare workers will now be armed with another tool to fight COVID-19.
With cases increasing significantly across the country, it's alarming.
The FDA issued an emergency use authorization for the distribution of baricitinib. It allows the drug to be used in combination with remdesivir in hospitalized patients needing oxygen.
It showed an improvement to recovery. And so you saw an improvement on recovery when combined with the use of remdesivir.
The president of Lilly Biomedicine says this combination reduced recovery time by 1 day and made ventilation or death less likely.
1 day, that's significant when you look at the magnitude of number of patients that are hospitalized.
More than 84,000 people across the U.S. are in the hospital for COVID-19. 3,000 of those are in Indiana. That's a 75% increase since November 1st.
Even a day improvement in the impact, not only is it a benefit for anyone who is able to recover more quickly, but also the strain that it puts in the hospital system.
And as hospitals also prepare to distribute a COVID-19 vaccine, researchers stress the importance of these treatments in the meantime.
Until it's widely available and everyone takes the vaccine, treatments still are an important element as part of this.
In Indianapolis, I'm Kelly Rinke, CBS 4 News.
Meanwhile, a COVID-19 vaccine could be just weeks away if the FDA grants emergency authorization to Pfizer. The company applied for that authorization today. A virus expert at Purdue says safety will be the FDA's first priority with a vaccine. It won't cut corners to get a vaccine out quickly.
Looking at the pros and cons and the benefit to general public, then they will decide, yes, it is worthwhile to approve as an emergency drug. Since it's for emergency use, I will say that 1 week, 2 weeks, they can do that job.
The FDA will look at the data submitted, and an outside board will examine safety before it's ever distributed.
Sodom has become corrupt, a city of sin.
But my nephew Lot lives there. He has a family.
The outcry against Sodom is great. Its sins are very grave.
Going to destroy it. In Sodom, will they suffer the same fate as the wicked?
We will test them. If my angels find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I will spare the whole city.
Please, help us. Fewer, 30, 20. They would not destroy them, surely.
find only 10, I will save the whole city.
us about to die. We salute.
Is Trans Day of Remembrance, and a group marched to City Hall this evening to raise awareness about those lost to violence and drugs in the trans community. In the last month, 3 trans women have died in Baltimore. Baltimore City Councilman 𝐒𝐄𝐄 announced they are donating $5,000 to Baltimore Safe Haven, and the money comes from the Kennedy Award for Public Service. Baltimore Safe Haven provides housing and services to help trans people who are living in survival mode.
We need education and resources. We're not just sex workers. We are people who live here. We pay taxes here. Our lives matter. We need support. We need health care. We need homeless services to provide us with a space for people that's over 24.
And to learn more about Baltimore Safe Haven and Trans Remembrance Day, you can just head to our
Opening
website.
today for a housing complex devoted to the LGBTQ community. The ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Glitz South in Woodhaven, Queens, will be the first housing complex in New York City owned by the Black trans community. Glitz stands for gays and lesbians living in a transgender society. It's aimed to help those who face housing discrimination due to their gender identity.
30 years of a dream of doing something like this, but not just doing it, putting us in an area, in a location where we don't have to run.
The Queensborough president-elect was at today's event and says that he hopes to fund more projects to house the
State
trans.
Secretary of Health, Dr. Rachel Levine, says the state is not putting any additional coronavirus-related restrictions in place, at least not yet. However, Dr. Levine warns that the coronavirus is spreading quickly, and it is up to businesses, schools, and individuals to do their part. Good afternoon. I'm Stacey Smith.
And I'm Kim Gable. In other parts of the state, though, they are not so lucky. In Philadelphia, there are more than 2,500 new coronavirus cases today. City leaders just announced they're putting tougher restrictions into place, including banning indoor gatherings of any size, indoor dining, and closing places like gyms and museums. And employees must work from home if possible. Our Andy Sheehan is live right now with the very latest on this. Andy.
Kim, with these numbers skyrocketing, the state health secretary says it's our collective responsibility to stop this community spread and bring the virus back under control.
We can answer the call to prevent the spread of this virus, COVID-19.
People are hoarding again in states like Michigan and cities like Chicago, which have gone back into lockdown mode. But today, Levine said here in Pennsylvania, it's up to the public to voluntarily answer the call. Wear masks, social distance, and avoid gatherings large and small, regardless of your political leanings.
Now that the election is over and the people have spoken, we need to stand united about these simple public health measures. This is not a political issue. This is not a partisan issue. This is an urgent public health issue in Pennsylvania.
Not only are the case numbers going up, so is the crucial percentage of people testing positive. Last week, the positivity rate jumped from 9.6% statewide, up from 6.8% the week before. Now 62 of the 67 counties have positivity rates above 7%, including Allegheny County, which stands at 7.7%.
I remember at Halloween, a lot of kids were going to parties.
And here in Allegheny County, cases have shot up since Halloween, and the health department has traced the spike to, quote, unmonitored private social gatherings, primarily among young people like this Pitt student named Jasper.
I mean, we're kind of fatigued, like everyone is, from the pandemic. It's hard to obey the rules 24/7.
Levine is asking young people to get tested and quarantined, and for the rest of us to limit Thanksgiving to immediate family and interact with extended family and friends remotely.
I know that that is an enormous sacrifice over Thanksgiving, over Christmas, over Hanukkah, over Kwanzaa, over New Year's. But that's what we need to do as we stand united to be able to stop the spread of this virus.
Now, Allegheny County Health Director Deborah Bogan says that businesses like restaurants and gyms have actually...